Joining me now in the hot seat, my old friend, Republican Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, thank you for joining us. We go way back to the old days, the Texas Solicitor General days, if I'm not mistaken. Senator, you're leading the charge to abolish the IRS. I think that's a fantastic idea. Tell us your plan.
Well, look, we have seen in recent weeks that the IRS has not honored its trust with the American people, that the Obama administration has demonstrated a willingness to use the machinery of government to target their political enemies. And that's wrong. It was wrong when Richard Nixon did it, and it's wrong when Barack Obama did it. And it is a manifestation of too much power in the federal government. When the federal government has that much power in our individual lives, it's an invitation to being abused. And I think we ought to abolish the IRS and instead move to a simple flat tax where the average American can fill out our taxes on a postcard. Put down how much you earn, put down a deduction for charitable contributions for home mortgage, and how much you owe. It ought to be just a simple one-page postcard and take the agents, the bureaucracy out of Washington and limit the power of government.
I have a hunch you might get bipartisan support for an idea like that.
Well, it seems to me we should, because it's about empowering the people. And that ought to be a bipartisan value. That ought to be something Republicans and Democrats can both embrace, empowering the citizenry instead of politicians in Washington.
Senator, a lot of us are concerned because the IRS has been entrusted by the Obama administration to administer Obamacare. Do you trust the IRS to handle something so important to every American?
Not remotely. Look, the IRS is given key responsibility for administering Obamacare. It has over 47 taxes and penalties that the IRS is supposed to administer concerning our health care, concerning vital aspects of taking care of our health, of our family's health, of our loved one's health. Right now, the IRS is creating the largest database in the country to implement Obamacare, and the intrusion into our personal lives, I think, is unacceptable. And the pattern we've seen is it's not something we can trust will be administered in a fair way. It's not something we can trust won't be used in a partisan way, in a vindictive way, and that's completely unacceptable with our health care.
Can you expand on that a little bit? I mean, if there was partisan targeting by the IRS in our financial matters, is it possible they might do that in our medical matters too?
Well, we have seen a consistent pattern in this administration, and the pattern is a willingness to use the machinery of government to target those they perceive as their political enemies. And that was true with the IRS. It's true with the Department of Justice that has been targeting reporters, targeting Fox News, going after reporters that would dare be critical of this administration. And I think it is, you know, frankly, the hubris of power, that the ends justify the means, and this administration has been willing to disregard the Constitution, disregard the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth and Fifth Amendments with drone policy, to set aside the constraints of the law for partisan ends. And that, the result of it has been that people's trust in the integrity of government has been undermined, and it hadn't been helped by the fact that the administration has been willing to mislead the American people. It hasn't been candid. I think the president needs to tell the truth.
So you bring up at least two of the three pending scandals, ongoing scandals, playing out in the Obama administration right now. But the promise of transparency that they gave us has given way to denials, deflections. What would you tell President Obama to do? Would you tell him to step aside?
I would tell the president to tell the truth. I think every president has an obligation of candor to the American people, not to mislead the American people. We have seen in recent weeks at least two instances of senior administration officials committing flat-out falsehoods. Number one, the White House press secretary, speaking on behalf of the President of the United States, stated that neither the White House nor the State Department had edited the talking points on Benghazi other than changing the word consulate. Within a couple of days, ABC News reported that that was false, that in fact they had edited it 12 different times and removed any reference to al-Qaeda, to terrorism. That's a directly, objectively provable false statement made on behalf of the President of the United States. Within roughly the same time period, the IRS went before Congress and said the IRS had not been targeting conservative organizations, pro-Israel organizations, those organizations that the administration perceived to be enemies. when senior officials at the IRS knew that that was false. Again, an objectively false statement. And I think that pattern undermines trust in the integrity of our democratic institutions, and I think the president needs to take responsibility. There needs to be accountability. We need to find out what happens, and the president needs to tell the truth.
All right, Senator, let's turn the page a little bit going forward. It looks like immigration is going to be one of the major things one of the major themes going forward by the Obama administration. Marco Rubio has put forward an idea that may include some sort of amnesty for illegals. Is he making a mistake with that?
Well, I think immigration reform is incredibly important, and I would very much like to see common sense immigration reform actually pass Congress. I think the way to pass a bill is to focus on areas of bipartisan agreement. That's how you get something accomplished. In immigration, I think there is widespread bipartisan agreement, number one, that we got to get serious securing our borders, that it doesn't make sense that we don't know who's coming into this country. And number two, that we need to improve, we need to streamline and expand legal immigration so we can remain a nation that welcomes and celebrates legal immigrants. You know, my dad came to this country 55 years ago, penniless from Cuba, not speaking English, seeking the American dream. That is our shared heritage. If we focus on areas of agreement, we can fix the broken immigration system. Unfortunately, what the Senate Democrats are doing is they're not trying to focus on areas of agreement. They're focusing on areas of sharp partisan disagreement, and I think that is sadly because the Obama White House wants a political issue more than they want to pass a bill. They want a partisan issue. They hope, I believe, that this bill will pass the Senate and then be voted down in the House so they can campaign in 2014 and 2016. That's cynical, and I think it's irresponsible.
All right, Senator, you brought it up. I'll have to ask you, you said your father came over here 55 years ago. With your high profile, there's speculation that you may be looking at a higher office, presidency. But you were born in Calgary, Canada. Will you explain to our viewers how you would be able to handle running for presidency, yet you were born in Canada?
Well, just the facts of my birth. I was born in Canada. My mother was an American, born in Wilmington, so I'm a citizen by birth. But let me be clear, Eric. I've been in the Senate 5 months. You know, this is my first elected position. I mean, to be honest, the last thing I was elected to was student council. My focus is on the U.S. Senate. The U.S. Senate is the battlefield right now. I mean, we are fighting, I think, to turn our country around. We're at the edge of a cliff. We're at the edge of a fiscal and economic cliff. We need economic growth back. We need opportunity back. And so 100% of my focus is on the U.S. Senate right now and helping Republicans win the Senate in 2014.
Senator, I'm a big fan of yours, so when Senator McCain said that you and Senator Rand Paul were wacko birds, I was a little mad about that, I got to be honest with you. Have you figured out what a wacko bird is yet?
You know, I don't know, and look, I like and I respect Senator McCain. He is a national hero. He is a patriot. He's a man of great integrity. I will say this, that if standing for liberty and standing for the Constitution make you a wacko bird, then you can count me a very proud wacko bird.
And guess what? I will be a wacko bird right behind you, sir.
Excellent.
Senator Ted Cruz, thank you for joining Cashing In this morning.
Thank you.